So as a doctoral student, I lead the political economy of media class for undergrad students. And when you teach political economy of media, you cannot teach it without criticizing capitalism and big conglomerate media companies, media moguls. But a lot of times when we criticize these big corporations, we feel helpless, hopeless, right? What can we do? It is this system we live in, right? So yeah, a lot of times whenever they feel like hopeless, helpless, and they question, what can we do? I bring up this long list of alternative media outlets on a website of some university's library, which is incredible. And here you are. We can do alternative media activities without engaging all these big media conglomerates activities. Of course, you can enjoy these commercialized media platforms, but also you can look into other platforms, alternatives. And to talk about these alternatives, you should really start with critical media literacy or media literacy at all, right? So, and these days, because we all use digital media, not necessarily the press, right? So I think media literacy for, I have two daughters, for one is teenager and one is 9, and including my kids, teaching them media literacy is not all about how to protect your daughter from digital fraud, something like that, scam, email, spam. It's not media literacy actually, right? Media literacy is knowing why you are getting this news feed, why you're getting this Instagram feed, why you're getting this TikTok feed, right? So yeah, media literacy really enables my students, my kids, to know why they are getting this news and information and why they are not getting this news and information. And I think it's really, really important skill for their even future with in other contexts which are not related to media, because at the end of the day, they will work with all this information and skills to deal with information. So yeah. So I was a cable news channel, 24-hour news channel reporter, which was big part of the established media in South Korea. And if you are a journalist for a established media or legacy media like New York Times, Washington Post, you are provided all these fancy accommodation, not always fancy, but really convenient accommodations from government officials, government institutions, and other business corporations, because they want to use you and they want their voices distributed, disseminated by legacy media. So there is this symbiosis between reporters and government officers or business executives, right? So once you are kind of tamed by these accommodations and you are getting familiar with all these famous figures, official figures, and because their voices give you the legitimacy as a journalist, right? So yeah, so for me, independent media is not only their political ideology, or it's not only the stories they publish. It is also about how they detect and cover and write their stories, because you really have to free yourself from these inner circles and all these accommodations that really affect implicitly, explicitly impact your stories. So yeah, not only politically, but also really logistically, independent media really is about that kind of way. That's it. So because it's not my election, right? I don't have the right to vote. But I really want to, at least in my political economy of media class, it's kind of really hard to get them to be interested in politics these days, let alone voting, right? But they have to vote because I like to frame election like this. So where do you want your tax dollar to be spent? And at the end of the day, who is in the office decides where your precious dollar that you earned from Chick-fil-A and Publix is get to be spent. Do you want the dollars to be spent on like oil companies subsidizing, or do you want your money, tax money, to be spent on, I don't know, public transportation, for example, right? And do you want your tax dollars to be spent for public school teachers? So I think because we need to make this topic really relatable and topic specific, and ironically, the social media platform and digital platforms are really, really useful platforms to make these kind of big conversation much more relatable and smaller and into everyday conversation. So yeah, I think we should be really smart and not to be so much depressed. And yeah, I think given that what happened on Facebook in the past few elections in the US, and this year is going to be really interesting in terms of, because young people, to me, are getting more and more interested in elections and political conversations. Well, be it conservative or even liberal. So yeah, I think it's, and TikTok, we have TikTok now, so it's going to be really interesting. I just want, I just want these useful digital social media platforms are going to be used usefully and effectively. And because it's so rapidly circulated among younger people, so I think if we can use that strategically and really smartly, we can bring up some issues that have never gotten attention they deserve, something like the public school teachers or public sectors or first, what's that, the first correspondent, first responders.
Oh, first responders.
Yeah, first responders and other really emergent issues, climate change, of course. Yeah, because TikTok is all about fun, right? And I think we can use that platform for virality and other digital platforms features. So independent media, what are you independent from, right? Even if you have your own political agenda, which are separated from established partisanship. I think financial transparency and transparency about your bias, because there's no such a thing as neutral media or objective media, right? So I think transparency, we need to distinguish transparency and neutrality, or transparency or objectivity, right? So you can be explicitly promoting your partisanship, but you should be really transparent about how you getting your sources, how you are detecting your sources and stories and covering them and publishing them, by whose money, and where you're spending these money sources, things like that. So I found really fascinating that a lot of alternative medias in the U.S. Mediascape are doing a great job doing that, being transparent with their donors and readers. So yeah,